right, in today's video, we're going to go over some null value detection and analysis. This was a question that came from a viewer of the channel, and here are the details of the question. So the question is, how do I directly find all columns that have at least one null value from a table? And the next request is fetch the corresponding data rows, all row columns associated with that particular null value. And then the next question is, how do I find the total counts and create a separate table for the particular rows? And this is being requested in Microsoft SQL Server. So let's cut over to SSMS and take a look at this. All right, so we are going to look at a table that comes with the AdventureWorks 2019 database, the product model table. So I'm just going to show you guys the data in this table. So it's got a handful of columns, and as you can see, some of the columns have null values, others have data in them. And this is the kind of table that we're interested in, is tables that have nulls that are sporadically populated with throughout the data, and we're going to do some analysis on them. And what we need to do is generate an expression that is going to detect the null values and give them basically a score. So that's what this is doing here, this case statement. So I'm going to the sys columns table, and I'm pulling out all the names of the table, and I'm wrapping them in an expression. And I'm saying when that column is null, then we're going to give it a score of 0, meaning it doesn't have a value. Otherwise, 1. So if there's a value in the column, it's going to get a score of 1, otherwise 0. So this is the generated expression. So we've got one for each column, and we're going to just concatenate all these together. So what's happening is we're just adding the values. And as you can see, there's 6 columns in the table, and that's important for our expression. So let's take this out. And what we're going to do is put it into our SQL statement here. So we're selecting from product model. And then all I did here before was take that expression, pasted it in. And now we're going to compare it to the number of columns in the table, which is 6. And so this is not only going to detect the rows that have a null value in them, it's also going to give us the data that's associated with them, which is what the viewer was asking for. So here's the entries in here that have null values in their data. So you can see in every row in the result set, there's at least one column that has a null value, and that's what we were looking for. And I don't even know, I didn't check before, but let's see if there's any rows that actually have 6 values. And there's none. So we'd have to actually put data in there to see where we've got cases where the number of values equals 6. Okay, now the next question was involving counts. So we want to get the total count of rows for the table, and we want to compare that to the count of number of null values we have in each column. And so what we need to do is generate some more SQL with the expression we need. So count star, which is listed here, that's going to tell you how many rows are in the result set. We don't have a where clause, so the result set is the number of rows in the table. And when you have count surrounded by a column name, that's going to tell you the number of rows that have a value in that column. But we want the number of nulls. So what we have to do is take the total number of rows and then subtract the number of rows that have a value in that column. And so that's what this is going to do for us. We run that query, and it just generates this expression. We take that out, we copy it in, and we put it into our expression in our query. Just remove that last column. And then we run our query. And so it tells us, hey, we've got 128 rows in our result set or in our table. Of those, 0 do not have a value. So they all have a value. Same thing's true with name. Now in catalog description, there are 122 rows that are null of the total. And for instructions, there's 119 rows that have a null. Row GUID has all rows with data, and the same is true with modified date. And the last question was asked is wanted to put that to a table. You know, if you wanted to actually put this, you don't really need a table since you've only got one one row here, but let's say that you wanted to do this for several tables and you wanted to store it as you were going along. So what I would do here is I would just have something that designates the name of the table, which is product model. And give it that's our table name. That'll be the name of the column. And then we've got column names for everything else. And so we would just say into, and then give our table a name. You could say table null counts, table column null counts. How about that? And then this would just direct this to that table. And then if you wanted to do this for other tables, you could just do an insert into that table in the same way you just did that select. They have a little different format. So you would have like insert into table column null counts. Give it the column list that you've got here. And then you would say, just run the select statement that you've got above. Let's take a look at what's in that table, though, real quick, just to make sure that everything's in there that we expect. And there you go. And that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed the video. And if you have a question, please drop it below. Talk to you guys later.